you guys. Today we're making olive oil soap. Okay, so as you can see from the last clip, there's not very many ingredients that go into the kind of soap that I like to make. It's basically just distilled water, real lye, and lye is basically sodium hydroxide. That's very important. Don't just get regular drain opener from the hardware store unless you know what you're doing. Just buy it off of Amazon or something like that. But just know that hard soaps need to be made with sodium hydroxide, pure sodium hydroxide. They even have food grade sodium hydroxide out there if you really want to be a purist. And if you want to make liquid soap, then you're going to want to use potassium hydroxide. It's very important. Do not go and get Drano or something like that, okay? And yes, it is possible to make your own lye from scratch. I have done it a couple of times, and quite frankly, I thought it was disgusting. I didn't like the way the soap smelled after I was done with it. So I went back to using, regular store-bought lye. I guess if the you-know-what hits the fan, then I guess I could go back to making my own lye out of, no other reason than I won't ever have soap otherwise. But for right now, as long as I can buy lye, I'm going to buy lye. It's very important to me to have products that are pure and safe for me and my family and friends. I don't like additives. I don't like things like that. So I've been making soap since around 1999 or 2000. When I discovered that like store-bought soap really wasn't soap. It's just basically what's left over from making soap, and then they put like these additives in it to make it lather. So it's pretty disgusting stuff. They take all the good stuff, which is the glycerin, out, and they use it for cosmetics and, yes, heart medicine. So I just don't like buying soap at the store. If you do still need to buy soap at the store, there are a few brands out there commercially that are still real soap. One of them is Ivory, the other one being Kirk's Castile. And then there's all these like fancy French ones and stuff like that they have out there that are like, pretty expensive. But if you don't want to pay for that kind of stuff, or if you're like me and you just don't like the smell of any of those, you can make your own soap. It's pretty easy. Okay, what we have here is 2.5 cups of distilled water. You really can't see it. My measuring cup is not very camera friendly, I can see, but right now. I like using this thick heat resistant glass cup to put my lye in because it does heat up when you put it in the water, and I will show you that in a little bit in the next part of the video. And then for the lye, you want to put 3/4 of a cup of lye, and then for the olive oil or whatever fat that you are using, you need to have 6 cups of that. That's the recipe that I have used for, I don't know, a million years, it seems like. But yeah, that's basically the best thing that I have, come up with. I've used other soap recipes that I didn't really like too much, and this one seems to work for me. And like I said again, okay, this did come from the hardware store, but it's 100% lye. It says it right on there. And if you look at the back, I don't even know where it is anymore, but somewhere on here it tells you that it's sodium hydroxide only. So yeah, that's what you want. If not, like I said, go on Amazon and get some on Amazon that literally says sodium hydroxide. If you do not know what you're doing, if you are a beginner, you really do not want to get the wrong stuff. Drano is not going to work. So yeah, just a big, huge FYI. I cannot stress that enough. And also safety first. If you don't believe me how volatile lye is, please, for the love of God, watch Fight Club. That scene in Fight Club where he burns the guy's hand with the lye is a real thing. That's really what happens to you if you get lye and water on your hands. And it does not go away with just putting water on it. Just a safety FYI. You need to wear gloves, or if you're more experienced like me, at least just keep your hands away from the water and away from the lye. Okay, so we're going to do this next step outside. I highly recommend this, or at least, a very well ventilated room. You do not want to breathe the fumes that come off of the lye. As you will see here in a minute, it does get pretty volatile. And like I said, if you haven't had much experience in this, or if you just really want to be cautious, please wear gloves and possibly even safety goggles. I always try to get, upwind from it, which almost isn't very possible today. So hopefully I won't have to inhale this crap. But anyway, I just want to show you guys what happens. So what I do is I just take the lye and I dump it in the water kind of slowly. And as you can see, it wants to stick to everything. It's like it picks up moisture. And once it starts picking up moisture, it starts doing its thing. And you really don't want to get it on your hands or anything like that. And don't be like me, wear gloves, okay? I've been doing this forever, so I know what not to touch. And so basically you just put it in there and you want to stir it up. And it'll actually start giving off like this, it looks like smoke or steam. And that's really caustic fumes. You don't want to breathe that. So if you have to, maybe wear a respirator. I don't know. But like I say, just I try to stay upwind from this stuff so I don't breathe it. But I don't know if you can see that. But see how it's starting to steam? Not only is it having a chemical reaction, but it's actually starting to heat up. And that's why you want that heat-resistant glass or, something to put it in. You don't want to put it in anything metal, like aluminum or anything else. This whisk that I'm using is restaurant-grade stainless steel, but you can use, just your regular old egg whisk if you want. Just make sure that it's stainless steel or wood. You don't want to have anything that's aluminum anywhere near this stuff because it will corrode it and give off even more noxious fumes. And what you need to do is stir it basically until the water is clear again. And then you're just going to leave it alone and it's going to do its thing. But it will heat up to over 150 degrees. Just sitting here by itself doing it, in the water. And so it's kind of a safety issue. You kind of want to be really careful when you're doing this. Okay, so as you can see, I stirred it for about 3 or 4 minutes, and the water is clear again, and that's what you want. Now, it's still going to be giving off like fumes, so you're going to want to leave it outside for a little while. Probably about 20 minutes or so, I would say, at least, just to let it do its little thing, because, it's having a chemical reaction. The lye mixed with the water has it makes a chemical reaction, so you just have to be very careful. So guys, I cannot stress this enough. This stuff will burn your skin off. It is not something you want to mess with. So make sure you have heat resistant glass that you're stirring it up in, and never put anything in there that's corrosive like aluminum or just something. If you don't know what kind of metal it's made out of, don't use it. Use wood or something like that. But yeah, I have this, like I said, it's a restaurant, commercial grade stainless steel whisk that I found, and that's what I like to use because it keeps my hands far away from, the area that could splash. So yeah, it's just a really good, way to err on the side of caution. So if you do splash some lye water or get the soap on you before it's cured, you can put vinegar or apple cider vinegar on the burn and then some water, and it will neutralize the burn. You can't just put cold water on it and expect it to go away. I know that's an instinctual thing, and I know that's what everybody's been taught when they get burned, but do not, under any circumstances, just put water on a burn that you get from lye. You have to put some sort of acidic thing on there. I don't care if it's pickle juice or whatever, but you have to use some type of vinegar to wash it with first to neutralize the chemical before you even put your hands in the water. So just a little FYI, if you guys have watched some of my old videos, you recognize this spray bottle. You know me, I use vinegar for everything. And this is one of the big things that I use it for, is for safety. If I happen to get some of this stuff on my hands, then I wash myself with vinegar. Okay, so for this particular soap recipe, anybody out there that's ever made olive oil soap knows that you have to have the lye water the same temperature as the olive oil before you put the two together. If you heat up the olive oil to meet the temperature of the lye that's okay, but I think that's harder. So what I like to do is I like to just let the lye water cool down until it's room temperature, just like the olive oil is, because you've got your olive oil sitting around your kitchen already. It's already whatever temperature the room's going to be. And so whatever that is, that's what you want your lye water to be. So it's just easiest to just, at this point, let it sit. And it could take all day. It could take, only a few hours. It just depends on how cold it is out there. Right now, it's not that cold today, so it probably won't take very long. So I will pick up this video again when it's time for me to mix the oil and the lye together. Sometimes I've had to let it sit overnight to get it to do what it's supposed to do. And that might be the case today, who knows? But whenever that happens, I will definitely be picking the camera back up, and I will show you guys the rest of the steps of making the soap through the magic of editing and YouTube. It's not going to take as long for me to show you guys as it really takes to make soap. It does take a long time. Soap is not something that happens fast. So you guys just have to be patient and let it do its thing. Okay guys, so the next part of this is pretty self-explanatory. You got your 6 cups of oil or fat or whatever you're going to use. In this particular recipe we're using oil because, well, that's just what I'm doing. I'm using olive oil. And you just pour your lye water into the pot. And just be careful, don't get it on yourself. Like I said, keep your spray bottle of vinegar nearby just in case. And it's looking like it's going to be tracing pretty good. And tracing is the word that they use for it turning into soap. So the next step is you take your stick mixer and you mix it up. Now see how it's turning kind of white? That's what you want. That's what they call tracing. And they call it tracing because this stuff like kind of follows your spoon or whatever it is you're using to mix it with. And olive oil takes a really long time to really turn into soap. So that's why if you do a lot of olive oil soap like I do, you want to get a stick mixer. So you just keep mixing it up. And what's going to happen is it's not going to be like a uniform color yet. It's just going to be like a marbly looking thing. And basically what you're looking for is the thickness. You want it to be kind of almost the consistency of honey. You see that? That's kind of almost right there. And you just keep doing it until you think that it's right. And see how I keep stopping and I keep checking? I want to make sure that I'm not overdoing it, because once you pour it in the mold, if it starts to stiffen up, it kind of is a pain in the butt. Okay, so as you can see, it kind of looks like the color of butter, and it's kind of still a little drippy, but it's thicker. It'll actually kind of like stay on the mixer there. And when you're mixing other types of oils, it thickens up really fast compared to olive oil. Olive oil is pretty slow. In the old days when they would do olive oil soap, it took a really, really long time. So that's why I recommend, if you're making any kind of soap, but especially olive oil soap, you get one of these like immersion blenders or stick mixers, as we like to call them. And yeah, eventually what's going to happen is it's going to thicken up even more, but it takes olive oil like a few days as opposed to like, a few hours. So now what we're going to do, because I'm pretty satisfied with how this is all together. It's actually like a consistent color, and it's like I said, you're more looking for the thickness. I've been doing this a long time, so I just kind of know what I like. I could keep mixing this because that's just the way the olive oil soap is, until it stiffens up more. But I prefer not to, because I'm pouring it into molds that are kind of detailed, and I don't want just one big brick of soap. But if you are just pouring it into like one big old like vat type of mold, then you don't have to worry about this so much. You can keep mixing it until it gets really, really thick if you like. But for what I'm doing today, my molds are pretty intricate, and so I want it to just kind of all flow into there. So I'll show you the next step that we're going to do here in a second. Yeah. Okay, as you can see, I have these cute little sunflower molds or whatever kind of flower. Yeah, they're actually pretty cute. And so I wanted the soap to be able to flow into those a lot better. A lot of times people will buy soap base and melt it and then pour it into molds. You can most certainly do that, but for me, I like to make it from scratch because I want to know what's in it. And all you do is it's pretty self-explanatory. You just take like a ladle or something, or if your pot has like a spout on it, which mine doesn't, you just basically just put it into the mold, and that's pretty much it. And also, I like to make sure that it's on a good, sturdy, flat surface. You want this to be kind of level. So if anybody that's, doing this in a van life or in an RV or something like that, you guys want to make sure that you're level, because you can get pretty messy with this kind of stuff. And I just kind of slowly pour it into the mold. So as you can see, I don't want it to be quite as thick as sometimes soap gets when you're making it. And if you guys make soap out of any other kind of oils and stuff like that, you'll understand what I'm saying. It actually thickens up pretty fast. So for that kind of soap, I usually use like really simple plain molds that it doesn't matter, like they're flat on the bottom, so without a lot of detail. Or like I say, I just put them in a big old soap loaf pan or a vat or something like that, which I haven't done in a long time because I really don't like those, because I don't like cutting soap. If you're like me and you hate cutting soap, then just get some silicone molds. They don't even have to be pretty. They can be like, for years I've been using like those silicone muffin tins, and those things work great. They make nice little round soaps, and you don't have to worry about cutting them and all that kind of stuff. And they're pretty much 3.5 to 4 ounces a piece, so you don't even have to measure it. You just know. So there you go. That's that part of it. Okay, so the next part of this scenario here is that you need to put these things in a protected area. Sometimes I put some parchment paper over top just to make sure that dust and bugs and things don't get in there. If you put it inside your oven, then it's pretty much protected from that kind of thing. Your oven is a good spot so that you can keep it insulated so that it can go through its chemical process, because over the next 24 hours it's going to heat back up and turn itself into soap. The only difference between olive oil soap and any other kind of soap that you're going to be making is the fact that it takes longer for this process to happen. So olive oil soap can take anywhere from 24 hours to like 3 or 4 days to harden up enough to where you can remove it from the molds. And that's one of the kind of issues that people have with it, because if you want to use the molds that the soap is in, you have to wait for it, obviously. And if you don't have a whole bunch of the same kind of mold, then it becomes kind of a pain in the butt if you want to keep making that kind of same shape of soap. So what I suggest is, if you find a mold that you like, buy a whole bunch of them. That way, if you've got some olive oil soap sitting there doing its thing, you don't have to worry about taking it out. I try to like kind of rotate the kinds of soap that I make and the shapes that I make, so that I don't have to worry about that, because I do have several different kinds of molds, but I can't always afford to buy like these pretty fancy ones. So I only have like a few of them. So the next batch that I make is going to be a soap that doesn't require being put in something pretty. If I decide to make this another batch of soap before this is done. And you just check on it every day and see how it's doing. But yeah, it's going to heat up and do its thing overnight, and that's why you need to put it in a nice protected area. Okay, so after the soap has done its thing, you just pop it out of the molds, and let it sit on the shelf for another month or two to cure completely. People think that making soap is instant. It is not. It takes about a month and a half to 2 months for it to cure, so that it doesn't just totally dissolve in the water. You can use it after about a week or two, but just know that it's not going to last quite as long. The longer that you let it sit, closer to the 2 month mark before you start using it, the longer it's going to last you in your soap dish. And that's another thing. Homemade soap will dissolve in no time if it's sitting in a puddle of water. So what you really need to make sure is that you have a good soap dish that drains and lets air get around the soap. And tell all your people that you make soap for, to do the same, because otherwise they're just going to be very unhappy with the product, because especially with olive oil soap, it gets kind of slimy and kind of gross, and it will dissolve very, very quickly if it doesn't have proper drying time in between uses. So yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. It's not a very hard process to make soap. Just make sure, like I said before, have all your safety tools in place. Make sure that you have gloves and goggles and things like that if you feel the need to, and make sure that you always have your vinegar on hand to make sure, just in case you burn yourself. Do not, like I said, if you get a burn from lye, do not put your hands in the water. It's going to make it worse. It's just going to make it burn more. So just make sure that you use vinegar on it first, let it sit there for a little bit, and then wash it off with the water. And if it's still burning, put more vinegar on it, because it is different than just getting a burn on like your pots and pans on the stove. It's actually a chemical burn, and it's doing a chemical reaction on your skin, and is very corrosive. So please, 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 like I said earlier in the video, make sure that you wear gloves and you have your vinegar on hand at the very least. All right, guys, hopefully that helps you out. Let me know in the comments what you think, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, bye.